Hi there, my name's Joe. I'm working with CAST on the Innovation and Digital Accelerator program. This workshop is for NGB leads, and it's about how to write about your work. It's about how to create a post in 30 minutes. And it's also about how writing can be quick, easy, and enjoyable. For this workshop, although this is a recording, I'll be inviting you to pause to stop this recording so you can do the exercises that I present. You'll need a timer for these exercises. When we ran this workshop originally, we had a timer on the screen, which you will see, but obviously this won't work because it's a recording, so you'll need your own timer. Let's go. Okay, so the workshop's about helping you feel more confident about writing about your work. It's going to teach you a process for publishing a short post in 30 minutes, and I hope by the end of it you'll feel more free to write for yourself rather than anyone else, because this is about writing for you, not for your organization, not for your team. It's about writing for you. And there's 3 parts. Originally, this is a 70-minute workshop, although the recording is less than 70 minutes. If you do all the exercises, it might take you 60 to 70 minutes. That's an estimate. We'll find out later. So part 1, writing. 2 exercises, then a short presentation. So I believe we can all write. We can all have a writing voice, and sometimes we need a little bit of encouragement to write in our own voice. What helps is that actually writing about things that have meaning to us. So things that you feel something about. Trying to write about something that you don't really care about, then it's much harder. However, it's also possible to write about things that we don't know much about. And there's a technique called time boxing, which is where timers come in, that can help us. So here's the first exercise. It's called Yum. I want you to take a document, maybe a Word document or Google Doc, and I want you to find a timer. And then I want you to write about your favorite food as a child, to write as much as you can, as descriptively as you can. Think about what it felt like to eat that food, what it tasted like, your memories of it. And if maybe there isn't anything for food, then maybe talk about something else that you enjoyed as a child. Yeah, and I want you to try and write without editing. It can be quite hard not to go back and deal with typos or restructure a sentence, but I just want you to sort of do your best to write without editing. So off we go. Set your timer and pause this recording and come back in 5 minutes. So I hope that went well. You might want to do a word count, and you might find that you actually wrote quite a few words. I've done this workshop with 40 or 50 people, and most people manage to write at least 50. Lots of people write over 100. Sometimes people write over 200. It's okay, however many you wrote. We're going to do another exercise again. Oh, that time has gone off now. Let's pause that and move forward. Okay, exercise 2, what I don't know. Again, take a document, Word or Google Doc. You can use the same one you used for exercise 1. And I want you to write X things or X number of things I would like to know more about in my work. You can write just about one thing, or you can write about several things. There's no limit to what you choose. You can write paragraphs, you can write bullet points. What I'd like you to do is try and just say a little about why you'd like to know more about each, because the why is often the bit that gets us to think and the bit that can actually help other people to understand what's going on for us. So write again as much as you can, and again, try not to go back and edit what you're writing. Leave the typos, they're okay. It's part of the technique. So I'm going to pause now and come back. Welcome back. Hope that went well for you. Again, you can do a little word count to just see how you did. Some people find it easier to do this exercise than exercise 1, and they write more. And for some people, they write more for exercise 1. There's no right or wrong. Okay, so writing about our work is a good thing, but we don't do it very often. Even though every day we write emails, we might write a report, we might write something else for something else. We do a lot of writing every day. Just often seems that writing about our work seems more difficult than other types of writing. Interestingly, though, writing about our work is a way of reflecting, a bit like journaling might be. It can help us understand our work. And when we publish that, what we've written, it can help us understand each other's work. It can help other people understand your work. It can reduce the sort of gap between you and other people, or the separation, just by, and it can create connection. And writing about work can actually be enjoyable. It can be a fun way to write. I imagine that a lot of writing most of us do isn't always the most fun at work, but writing about our work can be fun because it's a chance to bring you to it. Okay, so, and of course, that's why we're doing this workshop. So, something that helps, aids to writing, writing for ourselves, not others. I've said this a few times in different ways, but this is about you. You're not writing for an audience, you're writing for you. What also helps is aiming to write less words more often. 150 words is enough for what some people call a week note, a weekly piece of writing about your work, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that helps, writing less. Also, if you write less, you've got less to edit later on. Making a time to write, just like you would in a meeting. This workshop, this recording, is about learning to write a post in 30 minutes. It is possible. What helps also is having a process and the right tools. I'm going to teach you some of the process later on. And hey, sometimes we need to ask for encouragement from others, including our colleagues. I had a friend posted on LinkedIn the other day after taking a bit of sort of, were they okay? Were they ready to sort of write about their work and put it up there? And when they wrote about it, they explained that they weren't sure about writing about their work, and they got loads of actually really nice comments from people who were interested in what they had to say, and enjoyed it. You don't have to use LinkedIn. Medium is another very good platform. But yeah, encouragement helps. And writing drunk, that's a metaphor. Maybe some people do write drunk. There's one person who did, but we'll talk about him later. Yeah. So here are 4 positive writing behaviours to nurture. If we're in a workshop with other people, at this point we would stop and have a chat for about 10 minutes. These are behaviours that tend to help. These are things that I've talked about with people, that I've heard from people. I'm going to go through them a little bit now. So one is believing that your writing is good enough and having the vulnerability to write about things, even if you are not an expert on them, even if you may feel challenged by them, writing about them, being vulnerable, taking the leap, trusting that it will be okay. Writing about things that have meaning to you, that you care about, that you want to write about. This is part of what makes it fun. Even writing in a way that is fun for you. I've got another friend who has started writing week notes from the perspective of the bear that lives on his desk, teddy bear. Yeah, so this is good to write in the way and be creative about it that works for you. Timing, having a date to write, a time to write, or knowing that when inspiration strikes, you're going to just do it and you're going to write for 10 minutes or longer. Yeah, and the other is about culture in your workplace. Do you want to read what others at work have to say? Give them encouragement, ask for encouragement. Can you help there be a little bit more of a writing culture at work? That's what participants on the IDA program are being encouraged to sort of take part in. Let's move on to part 2, the writing process. Yeah, we're going to do more writing. There's actually 3 more exercises to come. And I'm going to teach you a process that might be new for some of us. It probably will be new for some of us, maybe not for all of us. And it's a little bit similar to what Ernest Hemingway and other writers use. We're not going to do any editing today, but you can do that after this session if you like. Okay, so first thing is about believing that your writing is good enough. Often we worry that our writing is not good enough. And I use the word good rather than writing well enough, because well enough implies that you're trying to judge it in some way. Good enough is more about how we feel about our writing. Is my writing good enough? Am I good enough to write? Is what I've got to say good enough for what other people want to read? And yeah, I've had my times of feeling like I can't write good enough. And some days, even though I'm a professional writer, I still think I can't write good enough. One thing that helps is having a repeatable process that I know I can rely on to help me to write. I'm going to ask you to try that process today. It'll work for, I mean, it can work for, several thousand words if you wanted to, but we're aiming at writing, probably 300 words or so, 250 maybe, or maybe 400. So yeah, it's about writing and publishing a post in 30 minutes. Everyone can do it. It's just about writing, like I said before, about less than you think you should. Having an idea of what you're going to write about before you start. Maybe you've just got an idea or whim or something you want to explore. And then it's about having that process, that repeatable, trusted process to use. So the process is something that reduces stress. It reduces procrastination, and it reduces the cognitive effort required to get started and keep going. My process goes in two parts. I work out a title. Don't always kind of nail it first time, but I have a good idea of a title and I write it down. That helps me focus on it. Then I will outline, which we're going to do in a minute. Then I'll check the title, and then I'll write. And I'll write without stopping for several minutes. Then later on, or maybe afterwards, I will edit, and then I'll publish. If you've done any design sessions with Cast, you'll have heard about skateboard as a sort of minimum sort of early type of product or service. Writing can be a bit like that. An outline is a bit like a skateboard when it comes to designing something. It's a bit like scaffolding a frame for a cabin. Some people call outlining making a skeleton. But the principle is that you start off with something small, first of all. You could even say a title is the smallest possible kind of thing you could do for a piece of writing. But yeah, it's about having that outline. Then it's about writing. And then it's about editing. If you're building a cabin, you'd clad it and then you'd trim and finish. You wouldn't clad a bit and then trim and finish it. You'd do the whole lot first, and then you clad it all first and then finish it. And the same with the principle of iterative design. You might do a skateboard first, see how that works for people, and then you might turn it into a bike, and then maybe it's an e-bike, but you wouldn't necessarily build an e-bike or an e-car straight away. You'd iterate first to see what people need. So let's move on. Okay, more about outlining. The great thing I find about outlines is that they give you a backrest, something to lean against. They are great because they break your piece of writing down into chunks, and those chunks are easy to change. So the good thing about doing an outline is you can make it messy and you can switch bits around, and it's quite quick to do that. They also make you think in subheadings. And subheadings are really good practice in writing. To use subheadings, it helps people to read what you're writing. Think of what it's like if you read a blog post online and maybe you're just scanning it. The subheadings help you to follow what they're saying without having to read it all always. And you've got to hold back on the temptation to write. You can also use templates to help you. They are generic outlines you can copy. And there are several templates on the Cast Medium site that you can reuse. Oh, here's an example of a outline that I did when I originally developed this workshop. Actually, it changed quite a bit from that, but that was what I did first of all. You don't have to use paper. I do. I like paper, but then after paper, I turn it into something digital in the actual place where I'm going to be writing. This is a really, really simple outline. Might be all you need is 3 subheadings or 4. 3 is good. 3 is a magic number. It depends how long the thing is you're writing. Here's a slightly bigger outline. You can see all it is bullet points with a few words just letting me know what I'm going to be writing about there. And here are some examples of some posts, some things that people have written. I'm showing them because if you have a look at the things that they've written about, you'll see quite a bit of creativity here. And this is something one of the things that can make writing fun. So Marluce on the left talked about a week in cloud types. She compared every day of the week with a cloud. Yeah. On the middle one, I wrote a post about a question that I had about a piece of content design that I was doing. It was really useful to just write about it and then share it actually with the team that I was working with. And then Tori on the right wrote something that compared something from her personal life with walking with design thinking. So it just gives you an idea of the scope of things that you can talk about. Really, it's up to you how you talk about your work and what you bring into it. Okay, hey, we're going to do another exercise. I want you to outline this time. I'm going to give you 5 minutes again. But I want you to outline 3 things I learned at work this week or month or year. You can do it on paper or on a screen. And I want you to outline the sections or subheadings first and then add detail to those afterwards. It's quite important to get those sort of sections or blocks worked out a little bit first and then add detail. Okay, you've got 5 minutes. I'm going to pause this recording now. Okay, welcome back. How was that for you? It's amazing actually how much you can outline in 5 minutes. Yeah, let's move on now. Talk a little bit about titles before we move on to our next exercise. I title first. Some people prefer to title later. I find that crafting a headline or title first helps me focus and makes outlining easier because I've written it down, I can work from that. But some people prefer to title afterwards or even after drafting. But I think it's harder to do it that way. It makes your writing longer because you have to take more time working it out. But it's up to you. And for the purposes of writing about your work, you're not marketing. You don't have to have a snazzy title unless one comes to mind. It's really okay to be plain. Yeah, and titles can, of course, be changed. Okay. And another exercise. We're going to, ask you to write a fictional week note. To outline a fictional week note. Or you can make it real, but based on the things that you do at work. And I'd like to, again, go to your document, make up your own title, outline using a days of the week structure or any other structure you like. It can be good to go for sort of 3 subheadings, or maybe there's 4 or 5. But again, do the sections or subheads first, then add detail, and include space for your feelings or reflections on each day or thing that you write about. Or you might just be writing about one thing. Again, leave space for some detail. And you've got 5 minutes, so I'm going to pause. And welcome back. Okay, I hope that was good for you as well. Thank you very much for giving it a go. Let's move on. Okay, first drafts. Here's where we talk about writing drunk. That's a story anyway about how Ernest Hemingway used to write. And I'm asking you to do the same. And it's not about alcohol. Of course, not really. It's just about writing without stopping, about leaning into the edge of comfort, wherever that is, against, around kind of editing or dealing with typos or not believing in yourself or feeling doubtful. It's just about trying to let go of those for 15 minutes and just acting as if you trust 100% what you will write. Because remember, this is a draft. It's a draft, and when you write without stopping, it can really sometimes help you gain momentum and can be really interesting what comes out. And you've got an outline, so your outlines are the jumping, it's like hopping across a river using stepping stones, going from one stone to another. Okay. Here we are. This is your exercise. Exercise 5, the final exercise. And I'm going to ask you for 15 minutes to just write. Use either of your outlines. Or if you want to pause and make yourself another outline for something else, you can do that as well. But I'm going to give you 15 minutes to write 300 words. Well, maybe you'll write a bit less, maybe you'll write a bit more. But I want you to follow your outline. I want you to have a breath first and then let go and just write. in a wild way, maybe as if you were tipsy or sledging down a hill slightly out of control. Don't stop to edit or do a word count. Only edit in the 15 minutes if you have written a final paragraph. Yep. And there's no rules about what you're writing about. Again, it's about, it's up to you. Just write. Okay, I'm going to pause. Okay, and welcome back. Thank you for giving that a go. You might want to count how many words you've done, and you might be surprised what you can do in 15 minutes. If you think that you've written for 15 minutes and before that you spent 5 minutes outlining, that's a post drafted in 20 minutes. Now you probably want to come and edit that, put in a picture maybe or something, but you've done the hard work. It's much easier to edit something than to write something usually. Okay, so hey, here's a little note on editing. So it is about actually not trying to write too much. We're going for less rather than lots here. We're not aiming for 700 or 800 words. You can do that if you want, but then it gives you more to edit. And people usually find it easier to sort of consume and read things from others when we kind of keep them to a size where it's only a couple of minutes. So yeah, we're aiming for somewhere between 250 to 500 words maybe. But again, there's no rules about it really. I want you to be free in your writing and to have fun. And I want you to aim for good enough rather than perfect. Yeah, that's all you really need to do, aim for good enough. Add a picture, because that makes things look nice, and then hit publish. Just do it, whether it's on LinkedIn or Medium or somewhere else. Hit publish, and you can, of course, always unpublish later. You can always go back and edit as well. But getting to that point where you hit publish. And if you're not sure about doing that, then ask a colleague or someone you trust to sort of just encourage you. It's really okay to ask for help, ask for support. Okay, so I think that's it. Yes. By the time that you watch this, we will probably have started the rest of module 1. If you're watching it and you want to take part, these are when the sessions are happening. You'll need to contact Doug or Laura at We Are Open. If you don't have their email address, you can ask Shani for it, and Shani will put you in touch with them. And Shani can send you actually there'll be an event invite page on Luma. It's good if you have done the exercises in this workshop before you join these writing sessions. Yeah, but basically it's putting into practice what we've talked about in this video, and it's doing it together. It's not a lot of talking, it's just a lot of outlining and writing, and it's fun. It's fun to do it together. Okay, thank you very much for watching this recording of this workshop.